I have an interview for you today that I am incredibly excited about. I had the honor of having my line editor, Perry Iles, come onto the channel and do a live edit of one of the chapters of my books for you so that you could see how he works behind the scenes, why he makes certain editing decisions, and he also gives you some tips for things that you can keep in mind when you are self-editing your books before you send it to a line editor like him. I've worked with Perry on every single one of the They Stay books. I've worked with him for 5 years now. He is so dedicated to his work and to his clients. I cannot recommend him highly enough. He has made every book that I've ever published way better than it would have otherwise been. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Perry to the channel. Well, Perry, thank you so much for joining me here today and for talking to me about line editing. Perry Iles is my editor. He's my line editor. We've worked together for what has it been, 5 years, 6 years? It's
It's been
been,
five, yeah, it's been
yeah,
7 or 8 books as well.
yeah, for quite a long time. And he's an extraordinary line editor, and I'm so happy to have him on the channel today so we can go through a chapter of one of my books and go through all of the line edits and show you what to work or what to look for in a line editor, how to incorporate line edits, things that you can take away from this and use when you're self-editing your books. And yeah, Perry, would you like to talk a little bit about your credentials and who you are and what got you started in editing?
Yes, Claire, thank you very much for inviting me to join you. And hi, everyone. I started this, must have been 20 years ago I was trying to get my own stories published. Self-publishing was just coming in at that time, and the old, sending samples to agents was fading out slightly. What that meant, of course, was that there was absolutely no quality control whatsoever on people writing their own books. Um, and of course, good writers didn't get editors. Good writers can be made better with a little bit of editing. Poor writers can also be made better. Whether they can be made into good writers or not, I don't know. It's not my job to judge the quality of the writing or indeed the subject matter, because all I do is to go in and do my editing process, which I've kind of honed it now over the last 20 years. Um, I started off mostly with academic work, people's PhD thesis, people's dissertations, essays, university work, which was good because it got me used to and it enabled me to build my confidence. Because at PhD level, I'm not going to understand what they're writing about if they're writing a very technical scientific um, piece of work. But what I can do is make the English better. And in many cases, these guys didn't have English as their first language, and it was before the age of AI and Chat GPT and all that. So people would send me their work, and whether I understood it or not, it was just up to me to make the English better and to make sure that their um, arguments were expressed as well as they possibly can. Now, that's a skill that can be transferred quite easily to fiction. And I started working on fiction probably about 12, 15 years ago, early bits and pieces of fiction. And you can do the same thing. You look at what is being written, you look at what is being said, and then you work to it. What you don't do, and what an editor should never do, is to try and make the author's work look like something that the editor had written. Obviously, editors have preferences. My favorite books are all modern American writers since the Second World War, people like Kurt Vonnegut and Cormac McCarthy, and I've got a they're my favorite editors, but it's not up to me to make everybody look or sound like that or to sound like something they shouldn't sound. So the first thing is to be sensitive to what people are writing about. That involves four things: genre, tone, voice, and style. Now, your piece of work in particular, your various books that I've written that I've helped you with, have been different. Some have been sequels to other books, others have been standalone books. This latest book that I only have the prologue for, again, it looks like you've moved up from YA fiction to adult crime fiction. There may be supernatural elements to it, which is your genre, and if there are, I will at least, I will obviously be to work in tandem with that, to make sure that the supernatural elements, or indeed whatever elements you're writing about, are expressed smoothly, transitioned smoothly. As far as voice goes, your book is written in the prologue of this book is written in the first person perspective of a serial killer. You express that he's going to do something pretty gross. He's going to make a couple of victims pull out their own teeth and see who can pull out the most teeth without anesthetic. It's kind of heavy stuff.
Yeah.
So it's immediately from a reader's perspective, you kind of think, ooh, but then you think, oh, I wonder if they do actually pull their teeth. So you're in, you're there. Your voice grounds you in the book, and it doesn't really need much changing. There's a little bit, this super serial killer, he's a bit scientific, so you try and make his voice, make his expressions more,
Hmm.
less of its and more of it is, and just cold and nasty.
Hmm.
Um, your style, as opposed to your voice, your style is, well, it looks to be modern crime fiction, which is tends to be kind of quite hard bitten, a little bit terse and precise, and not startlingly emotional. It's American crime fiction, modern American crime fiction, which is a great genre to work in. Or so it appears. As I say, it might get supernatural later. So that's your style and your tone and your voice and
Hmm.
your genre sorted. Now that I would do for anybody I was working with. You read through the section they've sent you, and obviously the things they've said. This is YA, this is fantasy, science fiction, romance, that awful thing, women's fiction, as if there's like men's fiction that, has an incredibly derogatory
Yeah, I
genre. I
agree.
think women's fiction, it's all going to be about romance and Christmas and lovey-dovey stuff, because women don't need to tax their poor little tired brains too much, and it's absolute garbage.
Yeah,
So, I mean, not the genre, I mean you know what I
I
mean.
know what you mean.
Any- Anyway, you turn a good editor is sensitive to voice, style, genre, tone, and other aspects of it. Yours, as far as tone is concerned, it has a couple of curse words in it. It's got the F word in it.
I
So,
like to use, I'm pretty generous in my usage of profanity
mhm.
in my chapters.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's your characters that are using profanities. It's not you. And, if you're writing, Stephen King once said in On Writing, which is a very, very good book, I recommend that thoroughly. Um, Stephen King said it's your characters that swear. It's not you. Um, if you're trying to write a working class character or a character that's under a great deal of pressure, they will swear,
Mhm.
and that's the end of it. You know. Um, the other thing you have here, and you've handled it incredibly well, is homophobia. In this particular bit, the killer has captured a married gay couple,
Mhm.
and what he does, this killer, is to criticize the emptiness of romantic words.
Mhm.
The promises you make when you get married, oh, I'll love you forever, or I'll look after you, and all this kind of thing. So your killer is not necessarily homophobic. And you writing is obviously definitely not homophobic. It just so happens that the killer is a psychopath and his first two victims that we hear about are a gay couple. It
Mhm.
may well be that his next victims are heterosexual. It may well be that he deliberately targets gay couples. But, it's a difficult subject to navigate successfully, and you've done it. Again, that's a matter of voice and tone and style. About editing generally, before we get into the specifics of your book, if anybody out there is looking for an editor, a good editor will say, send me a sample of your work and I will show you what I do.
Mhm.
Free of charge, free of obligation. Just, maybe 3 or 4 pages and he'll show you what you do. Personally, I work with track changes on the original document. Um, Another thing to be warned about when you take on a new editor is getting a quote. Now, I quote by the 1,000 words and I stick to it with no add ons, no VAT, no tax. And if somebody says, oh, I'll do it for $20 an hour, I would be suspicious because you have no idea how long they're going to take what they're going to do and how much they're going to charge you at the end.
Yep.
If you go for somebody who charges by the word, you will know that here is my 82,000 word novel. It will cost me X amount.
Hmm.
And that's what the editor would charge you or should charge you.
Absolutely.
So take on somebody who will give you a full quote, a
Hmm.
proper quote, and stick to it, and take on somebody who is willing to give you a free sample of what they do so that you can either say yes, no, or some of it,
Hmm.
um, and establish a rapport with the editor so that you can say, look, I don't like you doing that.
Hmm.
And no, I don't want to. I don't want you to continue to do that, but do this.
Yeah.
So, you can do it. So nobody, it's not about egos. There is no place for fragile egos in editing
Hmm.
because I am going to not exactly tear your book apart, of course. I'm going to suggest how it could be better.
Yeah.
Now, that can get people rubbed up the wrong way. And,
But it
they say,
shouldn't.
well,
It's all about improving your work, and it's like you need to go
exactly.
into it with humility. You can always make something better, and having another person's feedback and eyes, in my experience, has always, always made my books better.
It's like having a music producer. You
Hmm.
make an album and you stick it on YouTube or something and it's all
Hmm.
tattered and horrid, or you can get it, smoothed off a little if that's
Hmm.
what you want.
I know when before we started working together, when I was trying to look for editors, that's what I asked people to do was a sample edit. Like I sent the same piece of text to probably, I don't know, 15 different line editors, and then I could see side by side exactly what every editor would do and what things they would push me on and what things that they would change. And then it makes it very easy to compare kind of what style of feedback works best for you. And then yours just blew me away. It was like by far the best one that I got. And I was so happy with not only your attention to detail, but also all of the additions and all the ideas that you were contributing to it and writing different lines in and just coming up with different ideas. Because I found that every single piece of work that I've ever made has been made better through collaboration with other people and having other people put their ideas in. And as independent authors, sometimes like it's hard to sometimes find those collaborative relationships. And our relationship has been so great in creating my books and has been really, really
Well,
great for me creatively.
I was incredibly impressed not only by your writing, which is very good, but by your attitude, your professional attitude to plugging books, to doing what you're doing now. Your dedication to the craft as
Oh,
well as, I mean, a lot of writers will just write their books and say, "Oh, here you go, buy it." But you're gathering followers, you're promoting your work, you're taking criticisms and making things better, and that puts you in a almost, well, I would say not. There are few writers in your category that will take all of that and then produce a better book. And what I was amazed by was the fact that here I am, a 70-year-old English person, talking to you, a woman in her 20s, and we just got on. I mean,
yeah.
I've done a lot of books in American English. I know perfectly well. I've done PhDs and academic work in American English. I know perfectly well the differences in expression and spelling
Oh, yeah.
and that kind of thing. But for some reason, your YA fiction seemed to fit. Maybe because I've got children your age, I don't know, but it just seemed to fit, and I was amazed that was the case.
But I mean, it's also super impressive how well you are able to embody like disgruntled American teenagers. Like you can just like snap right into that space and you have all these
Well,
different ideas.
I had to. I mean, I think my daughters are maybe a couple of years younger than you, so I had two disgruntled British teenagers, but I mean, the amount of American input they watch compared
Mhm.
to home culture, they're always watching American shows, and so am I these days. I just think they're a huge amount better than anything Britain can produce. Um, so yes. Anyway, if that's the way I approach the editing process.
Mhm.
We can go on from here, unless there's
Yeah.
anything else you want to ask me. We can go on from here to talk about your particular piece of work.
So this is the prologue of a book that I have coming out in a month and a half. And it's about 1,000 words. And as Perry said, features a serial killer it's told from the point of view of a serial killer who's gonna make a couple pull out their own teeth.
Right. Well, I will start by looking at things like setup. um, indents. I would say the prologue and the first line needs to come in.
Like come in like
That's it.
that?
Yeah. Okay. The two men. I would say both men. Both men have very nice teeth. Um, Obviously that brings up the two of them, and
Mhm.
it pushes you in a little bit more. Greg's are more yellow from too much coffee. I'd imagine you could add, or maybe nicotine.
Oh yeah. Well, so Perry, do you want me to open the document that you actually edited already so that we can use that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, do that, and we can see what I did.
Yeah.
Um, I use track changes pretty much all the time. I think it's a fairly common approach to doing editing
Yeah. That I
because it
think that's
shows,
industry standard and it makes
yeah,
it so much easier as the author to be able to see exactly what your editor does.
yeah. Well, that's it. It shows what I've done what I've done exactly to your original piece of work, which means that
Mhm.
when you go through it, you can accept, you can reject, you can alter,
Yep.
um, and what have you. Anyway, look, here we have the indents pushed
Yep.
back to the left, and then we've got nicotine in there.
Hmm.
Um, Now the man's they're in an industrial chamber. Um, and again, it's just a few little bits watching as the men begin to stir. It's just a matter of smoothing it off slightly, in
Hmm.
my opinion. Now, obviously, you can keep to your original wording if you want, or you can accept my changes.
Hmm.
Now, what we have here next is a content error.
Hmm.
The video quality is remarkably clear. Now, I've made a comment on that to say, see comment on page 3. So, can we go down to page 3 and
Yep.
you'll find another highlight? Where is it?
I think it's this one.
Point to it again.
The I watch Greg's face on the grainy monitor.
That's it. Yes, right there. You've got a comment there. Now, up above, you've said that the view on the monitor is perfect because of the
Hmm.
lovely technology. Here, you've said the view is grainy. So I would suggest simply deleting the word grainy.
Yep.
Um, but it's worth pointing out because the author might want the vision to be grainy, so they might wish to go back and alter, or you might wish to go back and alter the first
Right.
um, thingy. So I'm pointing it out rather than changing it. I'm pointing out and saying this is a slight continuity error. It
Hmm.
needs sorting. It's up to you how you sort it.
It's excellent to have an
Um,
editor with such a keen eye for detail because I do not have a keen eye for detail and I'm just writing for the
well, the
vibe
right,
the whole time.
yeah, I mean, writers all the time, they're too busy looking, they're busy looking at the wood for the trees.
Hmm.
It's a very common thing that, you're sitting there, whether you bash out your entire chapter or whether you do it on a page by page, word by word basis, you
Hmm.
can sometimes miss these little details that don't matter.
Hmm.
Um, Another possible error, if you look at this, the killer tells the men they'll have approximately 40 minutes of oxygen remaining. Now, did you check that? Did you think to look up somewhere or,
Do you want to guess
see?
whether I checked that or not?
I would imagine you probably did.
I did not.
Um, you did
You were
not,
very
right? No,
correct. I absolutely did not
yeah.
check that.
Yeah. But what will happen is some train spotter or some nerd will come along to you and say, well, actually, in a room that's 10 foot by 10 foot by 8 feet high, it will take
Yeah.
3 hours. And, as made the comment on there, it will actually take them 3 hours and 17 minutes to die. So if
I
you're
have
going to
no
say
idea how
things
long
like
it would
that,
take them to die. I will have to like
no.
keep Googling.
Well, you could Google it, and if you get an answer, then fair enough. Um, if not, take out that thing. The room is airtight. You'll have enough time to think about what's happening as your oxygen runs out, and
Hmm.
then you can reconsider your principles and
Oh,
your
that's true.
options.
Yeah, I don't actually
That
have to be
gets you,
specific. Also, there's also
yeah,
a world in which he doesn't know either, and he's just pulling that out of his butt to scare them. But I don't
yeah,
think that it's clear enough that that's an intentional choice that I'm making,
no,
at all.
no, it isn't clear, and somebody will come to you and point it out.
Mhm.
I mean, I always check these things. If the book's set and they're driving a 1962 Chrysler Imperial, I'll Google it and say, well, actually, Chrysler Imperials didn't come out until 1964.
Yeah.
And you have to check factual things as
Hmm.
well as, I mean, this is really important in historical fiction.
Hmm.
Um, there was an English author, quite a well-known one, who wrote about the Titanic hitting an iceberg. And he wrote about the survivors and said that they were taken to New York and put up in a nice hotel, and that one of the survivors, spent their time looking around New York and went to the top of the Empire State Building to look at the view, which
Hmm.
is all well enough, but the Titanic sank in 1912 and the Empire State Building wasn't built until 1929. So continuity errors like that, simple
Yeah.
things are going to be, you need to stamp on them. You need to stop things. There's
100%.
another small example of that up here where the killer is keying the microphone to speak to the um, people, and normally two-way microphones. He's keeping his finger on the button, you say, while the people are talking. Now, if that happens, they won't be able to communicate. When you use, it's down a bit. It's at stop there in the middle of
Yeah.
page two. Um, you had him keeping his finger on the button. Normally
Mhm.
on two-way radios, you say something with your finger on the button, and then you take your finger off the button so you can hear the response.
Yeah.
And when you want to speak, you put your finger on the button. I know that from being a dispatcher in a taxi office in 1984. But these little things, just little details
Yeah.
that need to be pointed out, especially if you're talking technology or air running out, or and it's even harder if you're writing historical fiction,
Hmm.
and
Oh, yeah.
everything like that needs checking.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But apart from that's those are the things that the larger things. The rest of it is standard edits. If you look at the top of page two, I've got back in the control room. Now I put that in because um, you're going very quickly from the scene in the back of the killer's car
Mhm.
to pressing the intercom button. Now, when I first read that, I thought, oh, are they actually in a taxi? Because you've got intercoms in taxis where you can talk to passengers. We have in this country, you probably have in America too. Um, and I'm thinking, well, actually, are they in a taxi? Is it that? And it was then I realized, oh no, they're back in the control room and the
Mhm.
cell that they're in. So I just added back in the control room to make that slightly clearer.
Mhm.
Um, and then a few visual things, like the speaker set into the ceiling, sudden visual image, um, the man describing himself as a scientist. Uh, I've spelled out his words to make him sound a bit more clinical.
Mhm.
I mean, there he is very clinically asking them to pull out teeth and saying, well, I'll kill the person who pulls out the fewest teeth.
Mhm.
So he's cold hearted. He has no compassion. He's a sociopath,
Mhm.
probably a psycho as well. I mean, normal people don't think like that. I moved, there was a thing there about the silence, and then, I wanted to go straight from the dental forceps into you have 15 minutes to extract as many as your teeth as you can, So you've got the vision and the words coming bang, bang like that.
Mhm.
And you had the 15 minutes at a couple of lines below, and they react to it with surprise and astonishment, which is why I've added that other line just
Mhm.
below here. I can imagine them wondering why on earth they might want to do a thing like that. So I tell them, and it just makes the logic flow slightly more smoothly, I think.
Mhm.
Um, and it's up to you whether you agree with that or not. You can go back to your own edit. You can accept what I say. You can alter what I've done.
Well, this is a great example of the kind of edits that you do where you keep my voice intact and you keep exactly what I'm trying to do with the scene intact, and you're not trying to like put yourself in it, but just move things around so that what I'm trying to do is more effective.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, that's exactly what I try to do.
Hmm.
Um, I did the same. I mean, I think that's possibly why you picked me out of your
Hmm.
um, editors in the very, very early time, because it was the scene in They Stay between a girl and her very young brother
Hmm.
playing at dinosaurs. And I put the odd line in just to make them human,
Yeah.
before all the inhuman things started to happen to them.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's why we got on. Perhaps that's why we gel. And it's exactly this kind of thing. Just small improvements, as I say,
Mhm.
changes, you could call it, you know. And again, you take these things very well because you don't think, oh, I preferred mine because, oh, I don't like it. And you don't take it personally because it isn't personal.
It's not
It's
personal at all.
it's just trying to make you better. I do a lot. I worked on hundreds of novels, hundreds of books, and some of them I can make as good as I can, but they'll probably need a content editor, which I don't do. I mean, I will point out things like, if so and so said this and not said that, like I did with um, the screen
Mhm.
in here. But I don't do huge kind of, well, this character's unnecessary, get rid of them over the whole book. I'm much better at this copy editing
Mhm.
business and these details.
Mhm.
Um, so if you want to use me, this is what you use me for, rather than, well, I mean, obviously I will make comments on the book, um, and if I find a plot hole, I will say. I mean, give you an example of this. I was writing a spy thriller set in the First World War,
Mhm.
Second World War, sorry, in which some people escape from the Irish coast in a rowing boat and go into a submarine. And the submarine takes them to Germany. And when they get to the coast of Germany, they come out of the submarine and get back into the rowing boat and row ashore. And I said, how did you manage to tow a rowing boat in a submarine from Ireland to Germany? And it's the whole business of not knowing, looking at seeing the wood for the trees. You're looking at the interaction between the characters. Such an obvious thing, like how does a submarine tow a rowing boat,
And then the
is
author will be so in the story that they don't think of that. It's like if
exactly,
you get
yeah,
so close to it, then you're
yeah,
thinking about the emotions and the feelings and all the things you want to do, and then you don't actually think about the logistics a lot of the time. At least I
exactly,
don't.
yeah. But if you get, I mean, again, in this world of self-publishing, when an editor would pick up anything like that, in a world of self-publishing, that'll go straight out there
Oh yeah.
into the world, and people will feel perhaps a little foolish.
Hmm.
Um, so what I try to do is to make things, to get those links, to find those links,
Hmm.
and to find those errors, and try and work around them. Um,
Hmm.
you have somebody row them out to the submarine, and then you have somebody meet them at the other end in their own
Yeah.
rowing boat. It's easy enough to do, and it doesn't hurt the plot.
Hmm.
So it's one of the things. Those kind of continuity errors are very important.
Hmm.
Historical errors are very important. Ordinary things like, if you're writing a fantasy novel and you've got all sorts of words that aren't common English, names for your cities, names for your characters,
Hmm.
you have to make sure that that name or city is spelt the same way
Yep.
on page 438 as it is on page 3.
Yep.
Um, you have to discuss with your authors, do you want your ships' names advertised? Italicized? Do you want song names italicized? All of this kind of stuff. Consistency, it doesn't really matter technically whether they're italicized or not, but
Hmm.
consistency is all. And you have to make sure that the book or the things that you're doing to the book are consistent throughout the entire book.
Absolutely.
And that helps things become professional looking. That
Hmm.
makes your work look professional.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
that's what I want to do.
Hmm. Definitely.
What I have here, I mean, for your book, for this prologue, I can't see further than that. I've not read it, and that's another thing I do insist on doing. I don't like reading ahead
Hmm.
because it gives you presuppositions that affect your editing.
Hmm.
The readers don't read ahead, so why should the editor read ahead?
Yeah.
Um, it helps you, if you can think, oh, this person dies on page 47, you kind of think, well, it doesn't really matter what they say on page 22, when it does, of course,
Hmm.
because nobody knows they're going to die on page 47, this kind
Hmm.
of. these kind of details, these kind of things, as I say, I've been doing this for 20 years now, and they become part of the woodwork. They
Yeah.
become part of the thing. But what I was going to say was that at the end of this, I can do one of two things. I can send the edited version. This is what I call the edited version. I
Hmm.
can send this to the author, or I can copy it into another document and then accept all the changes
Hmm.
so that the author can read the finalized version. And I've worked with you long enough to know that you prefer the edited version so that you can accept, delete, or alter what you want. And I think most people are like that.
Hmm.
Some people want to see the finalized version as well.
Hmm.
What happens then is that the author, you will turn this into a finalized product. You will
Hmm.
accept, you'll reject, you'll change some of my things, then you'll send it back to me a second time. And then it will be my job to read it through again, make sure that no typos or anything have crept in, that no errors, that all the things I've pointed out
Yep.
have been attended to. And then I will start to build a collation. I will put your first chapter into the start. Then you'll send me the second chapter, and I'll do exactly the same as this
Hmm.
again. Send it back to you, you'll send it back to me, I'll add it to the collation. And then at the end, when this collation is full and it is the end product, I'll read it through again at reading speed
Hmm.
just to make sure that nothing has been left out or no mistakes remain in it.
And
So
I
it
absolutely
is
love that. It's very unique and it's rare in my experience to find an editor who will read it 3 times and like who cares
really,
as
I
much as
think,
you do. It's very, very special and I'm very, very grateful for that.
well, I'm glad, I'm a little surprised as well because I'd have thought that the editor's job is to first of all, look at the thing. Secondly, look at what the author's done in response to their changes. And
Hmm.
thirdly, read it through again to make sure that no mistakes remain in it, no
You would
errors of
think, but
any.
there's so many people that just do the bare minimum of
Right.
edits and they'll just give you, one pass through and change a couple things, but then they'll like do things like they'll command F to change all of your dialogue or like quotation marks to something else and they won't do it
Right.
manually and then there'll be like duplicates or errors and they'll just create more errors in your document and then they'll just send it back to you
Mm.
without checking their work and then it'll create a whole lot more work for you as the author and
Well,
it's
that's
just
utterly amateurish.
yeah.
That's there's no. I mean, I do use find and replace when people start spelling names wrong halfway
Mhm.
through a book.
Oh yeah.
And I'll say, how do you want to spell this?
Hmm.
And then you just go find all the misspells and replace with all the proper spells.
Yeah.
But then you've got to check it out as well, because if
Hmm.
you get a name that's also a common word, it's
Yeah.
going to change all the instances of the word throughout the entire book. So don't trust these automatic programs, and
Hmm.
certainly don't trust AI,
Oh yeah, no.
because AI is the curse of any form of creativity. I
Hmm.
find it everywhere. I mean, my academic work it's slipped off a little bit compared to what it was 15 years ago because AI didn't exist then.
Hmm.
Now you've got ChatGPT that turns everything into a kind of slush of perfectly written things, and then suddenly you'll get a word that's utterly wrong because its little paraphrasing
Hmm.
system I can't think of an example now, but you'll get something that's utterly wrong in the middle of it, and
Hmm.
it'll make everything look really silly.
Yeah.
And if you're doing academic work, then you know you can put it all through AI detectors. I mean, everything can go through an AI detector now, and
The AI detectors just don't work. Like I pasted the first chapter of They Stay into an AI detector just because I was curious. And like that book came out in 2021. That was before like all of this AI stuff. But I put it in the AI detector and it came out or it came back as like 87% AI. And I was like, that's false. It's like objectively not true. And AI, like you can ask it to correct grammar and do stuff for you, but I found that it does such a bad job in correcting and
yeah.
finding things.
I mean, I have a
Mhm.
friend who's written a very detailed historical account of somebody's life, and in that there are ships mentioned. Um, and again, AI, you can program it through Grammarly, I think it is, to,
Hmm.
every time you mention this name, put it in italics, or every time you mention
Oh,
that,
that's interesting.
capital letter at the start, which is kind of useful if you're doing really detailed stuff like that, but
Mhm.
not for your words, not for your expressions.
Yeah.
It just leaches all the soul out of it,
Hmm.
like auto tune in music. It takes all the soul out of it, and it's also immediately recognizable
Yeah.
if you've done any amount of writing or any amount of editing or indeed any amount of reading. I think,
Yeah.
you can see AI, and it's the death of art, really. I've started to do my final read through
Hmm.
using text to speech,
Oh,
so
really?
having it read out loud
Hmm.
uh, as I go through it, so I can look at the words as they come up
Oh, that's cool.
and find out, for things like double spacing or a space before something in the indent. Reading your book out to yourself as you're double checking it on that final edit
Yeah.
is a really useful state, and it's amazing what I can pick up just by
Yeah.
doing that.
That's really
Um,
cool. What do
and
you use
it
to do
works.
that? What program? Do you
Yeah,
just use the Word one?
it's in Word.
Okay.
Where are you? If you go up, read aloud. If you see
Oh,
right
yeah,
along
yeah,
to
yeah.
that, and you just read, and you can stop it
Same.
and
There.
alter.
Yeah.
Um, so you just get your final version up once we've done all of the stuff that we have to do.
Hmm.
Um, and you check the thing out by reading it aloud. Um, you can alter the speed as well, you can still pick up things, so you can save a bit of time by having it
Hmm.
read out in the style of Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yeah,
Um,
there's some really, really creative ones on there. I don't know if you've used like organ or like bubbles before, and then it makes it sound like you're playing an organ, like with the
In and
word.
already, Greg.
I wonder if I can like play it for you. It's ridiculous. Can you hear that?
no, I can't, but I can try it
Yeah,
myself.
you should try it. Try bubbles and organ. I was like peeing my pants laughing when I tried these for the first time. I was like, this is the most useless voice.
Yeah, you can change your voices. I mean, I
Mhm.
usually have my American books read out in an American accent and my British books read out in a British one. So
Yeah.
um, it's an interesting. I mean, there are useful things. There are useful
Mhm.
aspects of technology. I mean, we're using them now. All this track
Yeah.
changes and all this immediate ability to change rather than the old days when you were doing it on a typewriter or
Yeah, that's
writing on
true.
pen and paper.
Mhm.
I really feel sorry for Charles Dickens because his books
I
were
know.
very thick and very boring.
I know.
And
Well, that happens when you get paid by the
exactly.
word.
Yeah. Well, when you get paid by the word, you have to do it, and you just hope that there are. I mean, another thing is that doesn't get picked up by um, common one is if and of. And
Mhm.
the I and the O are so close; they're side by side on the keyboard,
Yeah.
and they're both words, so you won't get it picked up by the spell checker. You might get it picked up by a grammar check if you put if instead of of, but
Mhm.
so many times they go through,
Yeah.
and you know you have to pick that up. And again, if you get something read loud, you know, I'll be back off if I can spare the time, or
Yeah.
it will be. You immediately think, right, that should be if.
Hmm.
Um,
No, that's a really
so
good tip. So
yeah,
actually, that brings up another question that I had for you. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen so I can actually
okay.
ask you, or so that everybody can see your face while I'm talking to you. So we're not little boxes in the side. What would you, or what are your best pieces of advice for people looking to self-edit their book or like do a line edit themselves before working with a professional like you so that they can make the book as good as they can on their own before sending it to you?
Yes. Well, there's two things. First of all, beta readers, because they
Okay.
will pick out a few obvious things.
Hmm.
Self-edit, I mean, rewrites. It's the hardest thing to do. You finish a book and you're just so damn glad you finished it.
Hmm.
Um, that the whole re-editing and rewriting bit, that was my problem when I used to write. I'd write a novel and think, oh, great, I'll go on to something else now. Never got published, nobody ever wanted them. But you have to do these post-writing things. First thing you've got to do is to read it through again at reading speed. Just to see how the novel sits and how the book sits. And obviously, when you're doing that, you will find errors. You'll
Mhm.
find, double words like you talked about, if instead of, double spacing, just standard silly things.
Mhm.
So do that. Get yourself a couple of trusted beta readers who
Mhm.
you can send the book out to, and they will find things that you haven't found, and then send it to me.
Mhm.
Um, the last thing any author or any editor wants is halfway through the book, the author comes along and says, "Oh, I've changed all this. I've changed the front bit now because it's
I've done
done
that
with."
to you so many
Oh God,
times
you
that we've
have,
had to
yeah.
stop
Ah,
working.
no, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean that personally, Claire. Oh
I know,
no.
but I'm just saying I'm calling myself out because I've done that to you so
Yeah.
many times.
Oh, well, you did it with Dead Girls Don't Cry, I know, and you did it with one of the They Stay books.
Yeah.
But you were in your learning process. I mean, I've followed you since right at the beginning, since
Yeah.
before They Stay and all its sequels.
Mhm.
And I've seen the way you wrote books just by bashing them out and sending them to me, and then changed your mind, and then you wrote books by planning them, and then you wrote
Yeah.
plots out. And all the while you matured until we got to the final end of the final volume in the They Stay series, where it went smoothly. Not that it
Mhm.
didn't go smoothly, and not that I didn't, not that I minded, going over it again.
You were very
Unfortunately, I had to
patient with
charge you
me.
for doing it,
Yeah.
and that's another disadvantage because if somebody sends you half a book and then they say, "Oh, I've rewritten it," then
Mhm.
you have to charge them again
Oh,
because you've got to
absolutely.
reread and edit it again.
Yeah.
So it is best, as you have found out through your own process of trial and error,
Hmm.
to get the book in the best shape that you can
Hmm.
before you send it to an editor.
Yep.
But believe me, the best shape that you can get it in is probably not the best shape that I could get it in because I'll come to your work or anybody's work without judgment, without knowledge, without knowing what the ending is, and I will find things.
Oh,
I
yeah.
will find little things because, as you say, it's looking at the wood for the trees.
Hmm.
You can't stand there with your face 2 inches away from a tree and say what a lovely forest this is.
Hmm.
You've got to stand back, and it's so difficult for an author to do that. Beta readers can do it.
Hmm.
Some of them, might not be able to do it that well because they're friends and don't want to hurt your feelings.
You
But
should get beta readers. This is my shout out advice as an author. Get beta readers who are not your friends, who have no personal connection to you, who are in your target audience for your book. And I
yeah,
found I was so privileged to get as like I worked with a team of 200 beta readers on Love Trials, and it was incredible. And I found all of them on TikTok, and like just by making videos and marketing my book. And they were
mm,
none of them were people that I knew. I had this wide range. Like some people were like, "This is the best book I've ever read," and some people were like, "This is absolute dog that I never want to read again in my entire life." And I had the entire range of feedback, and I just got to see the big picture and like a very, very balanced view of exactly what how this book was affecting people. And it was just the most invaluable feedback that I got from them. So I
yeah.
highly, highly recommend. There's no replacement for that. You need to work with beta readers.
But then you had 200 beta readers like that,
Mhm.
and I still found things. I still
Yeah,
found the grainy
exactly.
monitor and the clear monitor. I still found that, how many
Mhm.
people, how long does it take to die?
I had
Little
200
things.
beta readers. I had one beta reader read it through another two times. I've read it through. Lots of people have seen this chapter before you have, and you still find things. So it's
Mhm.
invaluable to still work with line editors.
Yeah. Now that's my job. It's what
Mhm.
I should do and what I do. Sometimes I think I'm a bit heavy-handed, but
It's a good thing.
judging
It's
from
why I
your
like working with
responses,
you.
I'm not.
It's
Some
way
people
better.
have said, "Oh, some people get a bit flaky and say, "Oh, you've pointed out how bad it is," and I haven't. I no, that's not what I wanted to do at all.
But if it has issues, it's your job to smooth things out and fix things. Like that's literally
Yeah,
your job. Like
mhm,
if they're like, you've pointed it out, it's like, yes, thank you. That's what you hired
yeah.
me for. Like
It's
we're
what you're
making it
paying me
better.
to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly what you're paying me to do and what I
Mhm.
should be doing.
Yeah,
And hopefully, I will continue to do it again for you in the
absolutely.
future, and perhaps for others as well. There
Yes.
is only me. I mean, I do it everything myself. I'm a
Mhm.
one-man business. I don't advertise. I get everything through word of mouth. And you are one of my biggest words of mouths. I was going to say you're one of my biggest mouths, but that sounds, I mean, I get everything. Oh, I was watching Claire Fraser's channel, or some blonde girl on YouTube said you should use,
Well, I'm very
you know,
happy that I've been able to send people your way because I've been so, so happy with the editing that you've done for me, and I will recommend
mm,
you to anybody. So if any of you who are watching this video right now are looking for a line editor, I highly, highly, highly recommend Perry. I will recommend Perry always to anyone who is looking for a line editor. Like the quality of his work is exceptional and you should work with him. So, Perry, do you want to tell people where, like how they can reach out to you or what's the best way to contact you?
email is always the best way to contact me. I work mostly over email because I have clients all over the world. My email address is champerproof@yahoo.uk. I don't know if you can write
I'll
that
put,
down
yeah,
there
I'll,
on the
I'll write it
bottom of
on
the
the screen.
screen. Um, or write it on the screen right from the start and keep it there throughout the whole
Yeah,
interview.
that's a good idea.
Um, email me. I
Mhm,
will always get back to you, and I will get back to you myself because it's me that does it. I have had vague thoughts of including my daughters, both of whom have master's degrees in script writing and screenwriting for film and television.
mhm,
Um, and are used to doing things that I'm not used to doing, like screenplays and
mhm,
turning novels into screenplays. But at the moment, it's just me,
mhm,
and I'm getting on a bit, so I'm hoping to be doing it for a few more years yet. So yes,
mhm.
if you want any, just ask me questions. You don't have to give me work, just ask me things, and I'll be happy to answer. Um, and of course, if you want me to edit your book, I will be happy to do that too.
Thank you so much for watching that video. I hope that you enjoyed it and it was helpful to you. If you have a second, I'd be super grateful if you could like the video and also subscribe to my channel. My name is Claire Fraze and I'm an award-winning author who makes weekly videos sharing actionable writing tips that helped me make my own writing better. I'm the author of the paranormal thriller They Stay series, which is a 5-book series, all of which Perry has edited, as well as The Love Trials, which is coming out on April 28th and is currently up for pre-order. And this prologue that we edited in the video is the prologue of The Love Trials. So if you're interested in pre-ordering a copy, I would love you forever. I hope you have a good week, everyone, and as always, happy writing.